Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking this absolutely epic, literally cinematic journey through the sands of time. We're going to be looking at the last night of ancient Egypt. We're talking about a wildly dramatic transition from these untouchable god kings who built completely logic-defying monuments to a totally shattered empire, and finally, down to the modern-day archaeological cover-ups surrounding what they actually left behind.
Right off the bat, let's just bypass the traditional textbook agenda and drop right into the heart of the mystery. What is truly hiding inside the Great Pyramid? Now, we're always told it's just a tomb, right? But as you'll see in just a moment, the actual physical evidence left beneath the sands tells a vastly different and highly suppressed story. Part 1. The Golden Age. To really understand this mystery, we have to travel back about 5,000 years. Early rulers united the land by harnessing the immense wealth of the Nile River, and they essentially declared themselves literal gods on Earth. So, the crucial point is, if you're a god, you can't exactly be seen as mortal, right? You have to exist forever. And to achieve that, they invented this incredibly visceral, deeply complex process of mummification. I mean, the process was intense. Surgeons would actually extract the brain out through the nose using a hook. They'd remove all the internal organs except for the heart. Soak the empty body in salt water for 40 days. Stuff it with sand just to keep its shape. And finally, they'd wrap the whole thing up in oil, honey, and pristine white bandages.
Part 2. Engineering the impossible.
Now, this absolute obsession with immortality, it didn't just stop at their bodies. It pushed the pharaohs to construct the grandest, most logic-defying tombs imaginable to house those mummified remains. And this brilliantly illustrates the unimaginable scale we're talking about here. Think about the modern Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world today. By weight, the Great Pyramid of Giza is 12 times heavier. Just let that sink in for a second. 12 times the mass of our most advanced modern skyscraper, just sitting right there out in the ancient desert. We're looking at a structure so incomprehensibly massive that you could easily park 2,000 large trucks right inside its volume. Built under the reign of Khufu, it literally held the title of the world's tallest building for an astounding 3,500 years. The sheer economic and physical toll required to build these artificial mountains of stone was just staggering. Part 3. The Fall of the Pharaohs. So, how exactly does an empire that commands enough resources to build artificial mountains collapse so dramatically? Well, it really all comes down to unchecked arrogance. As historical and religious texts describe it, the pharaohs honestly believed they owned not just the people, but the very elements themselves. They enslaved the Bani Israel, subjecting them to this brutal, forced labor. The pharaoh actually famously declared, "Does not the kingdom of Egypt belong to me? I am your highest lord," basically claiming total dominion over the Nile and over life itself. But a prophecy completely disrupted this absolute control. According to the narratives, astrologers warned the pharaoh of a coming child from the enslaved Bani Israel, who would ultimately bring about the destruction of his 3,000-year empire. In response to this, the pharaoh initiated the Killing Year. It was a terrifying, ruthless decree ordering the death of all newborn boys from that community, just trying to stop the prophecy right in its tracks.
But the story reveals this incredible irony. A desperate mother sets her baby adrift in the river just to save him. That baby is found and, miraculously, raised within the very palace of the tyrant who is hunting him. That boy grows up to become the prophet Musa, or Moses. He eventually flees, only to return later to confront the pharaoh, demanding his people's freedom in what basically becomes the ultimate showdown of divine miracles versus state-sponsored magic.
And the cinematic climax of this epic confrontation happens right at the water's edge. After pretending to let the Bani Israel go, the pharaoh, often identified as Ramses in these narratives, decides to pursue them. And the pursuit ends with his last breath, as the waters of the Red Sea literally collapse upon him and his mighty army. The great god king was shown to be nothing more than a mortal man who couldn't buy a single breath of air. It was a moment that symbolically and quite literally broke the psychological back of the entire empire. Let's move to and see how this builds into a rapid timeline of decline. Following that massive defeat, Egypt entered a dark age and lost its supreme superpower status forever. The region was subsequently conquered and essentially passed around. It fell under the influence of Solomon's rise, was later conquered by Alexander the Great, subjected to a 600-year Roman rule, culminating in the empire's dramatic final breath under Cleopatra in 30 BC. Ultimately, the region was taken by Umar bin Khattab's Muslim army. The untouchable god kings were officially history.
Part 4.
Secrets of the Great Pyramid.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast we see. If the historical narrative is this dramatic, what secrets about that original golden age are still physically buried? Because there's a huge difference in what we're told versus what's there. On the left, we have mainstream Egyptology, the belief that the Great Pyramid was built in just 20 years, using primitive copper chisels and ropes by thousands of workers solely as a tomb. But on the right, the physical alternative evidence shows us advanced machining, perfectly drilled granite, a total lack of soot, and mysterious hidden chambers. Let's look at the specifics for a second. We are talking about 80-ton solid granite blocks moved from quarries over 500 miles away. Engineers like Christopher Dunn have documented perfectly round drill cores and saw marks in this extremely hard granite, stuff that would literally destroy a primitive copper tool in a matter of minutes. Furthermore, deep inside the intricate pitch-black tunnels of the pyramid, there's absolutely zero soot or smoke marks on the ceilings. If they used fire torches to see while they worked, there would be soot everywhere. So how on earth did they see? How did they cut solid granite with modern precision? And the anomalies absolutely don't stop there. Independent researchers point out that the three main pyramids perfectly align with the constellation of Orion's belt. But not as it looked in the Pharaohs' time, it aligns exactly as it appeared in 10,500 BC. On top of that, geologists like Dr. Robert Schoch have shown that the profound weathering at the base of the Sphinx was actually caused by torrential rainfall. We're talking about weather patterns that only existed at the end of the last ice age, over 12,000 years ago. It's like a giant puzzle that strongly suggests these monuments were built by a highly advanced, maybe lost civilization, long before the pharaohs even existed.
Part 5. Empires Claim the Sands and the Secrets.
So if this physical evidence of advanced technology exists right out in the open, why isn't it front page news every single day? Why is independent research actively suppressed by modern academic gatekeepers? Well, it often comes down to protecting established narratives and professional reputations. Gatekeepers of antiquities, most notably figures like Dr. Zahi Hawass, have wielded immense power over what gets explored. When challenged with physical evidence that contradicts the standard textbook narrative, the response is often just a strict shutdown. As this quote illustrates, when pressed on a closed excavation site, the response to a journalist was simply, "I closed it, and I am going to close it." No debate, no exploration, just shutdown. Honestly, perhaps the most frustrating example of this is Gantenbrink Store. Back in 1993, a tiny robotic camera explored a previously inaccessible shaft inside the Great Pyramid and found this mysterious limestone door, complete with 2 copper handles. Metal fittings had never been found like this before in the pyramid. It clearly protects something. Yet exploration was suddenly halted. Years later, a small hole was finally drilled through it, revealing another completely sealed door directly behind it. And to this day, authorities deliberately refuse to let anyone fully explore what is behind it.
And the mysteries just keep piling up. Get this, in 2017, scientists used muon radiography, which is essentially a highly advanced cosmic ray scan that lets you look right through solid stone, to scan the Great Pyramid. And they discovered a massive, completely untouched void sitting directly above the Grand Gallery. It's a hidden chamber as big as a commercial airplane. The response from the authorities? Yep, you guessed it. They still refuse to allow any physical investigation into this massive void.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question as we wrap up this explainer. If primitive tools and copper chisels couldn't possibly have carved these stones, if the celestial alignments and water erosion point to a highly advanced civilization from the Ice Age, and if modern gatekeepers are actively refusing to open hidden doors and massive voids inside the Great Pyramid, if the pharaohs didn't build the pyramids, who did?